Hi, this is Mark Satterfield, and today's presentation is titled, Why Don't People Buy From You? You know, when I was a student in graduate school, we looked a lot at consumer buying behavior, and, from a practical perspective, there's a lot of reasons why people don't buy from you. The most often that's articulated is price, and as I've mentioned in other programs, price actually is not usually the reason that people really don't buy from you, but it is a factor. Other reasons are, lack of need, your competitor has got a better story. But in talking with people that research this, with talking with some authors that have really dived down into this, and based on my own personal experience, both with my own business as well as with coaching and consulting with many of you, I believe that one of the major reasons is risk. And risk is a huge issue. I mean, it winds up being questions such as, suppose it doesn't work. Suppose I don't get the results that you say I'm going to get. I may lose my money. I may lose my time. If I'm going to do something that's visible, this could hurt my reputation. All of these go into the risk factor. And I think risk is one of the main reasons why people don't or are reluctant to buy your premium price service. Now, if the only thing that you're offering is your full-blown, all-inclusive, platinum-level consulting program with all the bells and whistles, what you're running into is you're really running into this risk issue time and time again. So the question then becomes, and the more interesting part is, okay, well, I understand the risk an issue, and I understand that people have concerns about it. Well, what exactly do I do? And that's the reason why I would encourage you to give some serious thought to what we call unbundling your services. And let me tell you a little bit about what I mean by that. What I mean is it's kind of two different things. One, of course, is to think about your premium priced, your platinum level service, and to think about it from a component pricing standpoint. Now, the easiest way to think of component pricing is to think of, okay, there's a price for the analysis, there's a price for the design of the solution plan, there's a price for implementing it, and then there's a price for results. And the price for the results is oftentimes a contingency, a percentage of increase in revenue or a percentage of cost savings, which may or may not be credited against the amount of money that people invest. So component pricing can be a very important tool in terms of reducing risk. Now, the other way of reducing risk is by offering information that these people might be interested in. Because you remember that what we're talking about here is we're talking about people that have probably raised their hand and expressed an initial interest in who you are and what you do, but they don't know you that well. The credibility has not been established. So, the problem is, and this I think goes to the risk issue, is that a lot of advice givers really don't have much new to say. And that frightens your prospective buyers. Now, I'm going to assume for the moment that you do have something new, you do have an interesting perspective, you do have a new way of looking at things, but unfortunately, your prospects are extremely skeptical, and they're afraid that they're just going to hear the same old stuff, or they're going to hear kind of a reworking of stuff that was kind of drivel the first time it was put out there. And that frightens your prospective buyers, and this makes the risk factor even greater. So how do we address this? Well, one way of addressing it is to offer information that builds trust, builds credibility, and makes the buying decision safe. But the question there becomes but if I do that, won't I be hurting my business? And the answer to that is no, not really. And the reason I say that is that everyone has unique needs. All your prospects have unique needs, or at least they think their problems are unique. And remember that what you're trying to do is that you're trying to get them to ultimately hire you for that full-scale product and or project, and you will be successful in doing that if you build this credibility. Now, also keep in mind that I said offer information, not give away information, and that's an important distinction. So, what kind of information? Well, the kind of information you want to give away, and this is building a little bit on the conversations and the programs I've done with you on your free report. But the real key is to think about the information you have that is probably pretty basic to you, but is probably going to be very interesting to your prospective clients. So, for example, what's the first thing someone should do when facing a particular problem? What's that number one thing? And that answer to that question is going to be very, very interesting to your prospective clients. Now, to you, it's old hat. It's, common sense. It's stuff that, you've kind of, burned your way through it, years and years ago. But you have to remember that you're a mile deep in your particular topic, whereas your prospects are very, very interested in the basics. So, think about, in terms of information, what's that first thing someone should do when facing a particular problem? Or, here's another one. Give me 3 quick ideas for addressing a particular issue. So again, what are the fundamental questions that get asked? And if you think about those, and when you think about them, you can come up with lots and lots of them. And when you think about those, each of those are very interesting information products which you could create. So let me give you an example. I've got a client. And first of all, as I talk about this example, don't fall into that trap of go, oh, well, I'm not an HR consulting firm, so this doesn't apply to me. Open your mind. Think about, okay, what is Mark talking about from a concept standpoint, and how can I apply it? This takes a little bit of thinking. I'll be the first to admit this. So let me go on with this example. I got a client is in the HR consulting field. And basically what this client does is they focus on large-scale change initiatives. And they are targeting relatively senior-level executives in big companies. So what are the questions that prospects are interested in? And there's kind of, 3 big questions that have come up, which we've gotten feedback. These are the things people are interested in terms of how do you get people on board? Change initiatives, people always think of them as, the flavor of the month. And for those of you that have worked in corporate America, you know what I'm talking about. So, the question is, give me 3 quick tips for how do you get people on board? What separates the losers from the winners? There's lots and lots of talk about change initiatives. Lots and lots of companies have tried it. From what we read in the business press, very few companies are ultimately successful with it. What separates the losers from the winners? What are the key characteristics? Change initiative. We don't do it overnight. How long does it take? What should I reasonably expect? These are just basically 3 simple questions that I kind of, came up with, but you can probably imagine that there's a lot more questions, but the one thing they all have in common is that they are very basic, very fundamental, and that's what people are curious about. That's what people want to learn. So, any of those questions, or all those questions, or some of those questions, they would obviously make an interesting report, but they would also make an interesting product. Now, it's about 5 to 9 in the morning, and I just made this slide up about 15 minutes ago. So bear with me here because I haven't created this product, but I do think this would make a very interesting information product. And we could call it something like implementing change in the technology sector. And in this information product, there's a DVD of a speech that the senior consultant has made. Maybe it's a speech that they made in a public venue. Maybe it's a speech that the senior partner of the consulting firm made in a conference room to a bunch of the other people in the conference room. Doesn't make any difference. It's a DVD of a speech. There's a transcript of that speech so that people can read it and underline it. And again, it's appealing to a different sense. Some people like to see videos. Some people like to read things. There's an assessment questionnaire, in terms of what's your company's readiness for change, and you can mail that in and receive feedback and results. And that's a value add, but also what it's doing is leading to the next step in the process, enabling you to have that consultative discussion with the person once they mail in the questionnaire. What else are we going to include? Well, we got 3 case studies. We got a change roadmap. What the change roadmap might be is a step-by-step overview of what needs to be done, when does it need to be done when you're implementing a change initiative. There's an audio CD series, maybe 2 or 3 CDs, which discuss the change process and talk about the firm's perspective on change in the technology sector. In effect, somewhat similar to the DVD, but we're giving it in a different format. There's some sample communication pieces. Change is all about how do you communicate. So maybe there's some sample communication pieces in terms of an email sequence that went out to employees to announce the change and to reinforce it. Some templated pieces that would be helpful. There's a inclusion to your the subscription to your monthly newsletter that you're sending out, and you package all this in an elegant leather attaché case. So this really looks slick, this really looks professional, and you sell it for $8.95. And what you are doing now is you've got not only an information product, but you've got an opportunity for people who are now hearing about you. You're building trust, you're building credibility. So information products, and I've talked about this before, how-to ebooks, these can be very simple things, sell them for $29, $39, $49, $79. Directories, people are always looking for information, so directories are make a great information product. You can have teleconferences, you can have webinars, case studies. People love to read about case studies. Worked with a number of you in terms of doing case studies as a part of your free report. Case studies can be a great component in an information product, or perhaps parts of your service where we do it for you. All of these can be bundled together, packaged, marketed individually, marketed collectively, but what they enable you to do is to achieve a variety of objectives. They enable you to introduce your services through new channels. It increases your overall web traffic. It improves your positioning as a trusted source. By offering these products, it can be a launching pad for speaking and media appearances and PR initiatives. It can actually, when you think about it, turn your business development activities from a cost into a revenue stream. And most importantly, it enables you to build trust with your prospects and makes it easier for them to invest in your premium priced platinum level services. Something to think about, isn't it? Hey, if you'd like to talk about it in more detail, fill out the form on the right-hand side of the page. But hope this gave you some good thought, and I'll talk to you soon. Bye-bye.